Hello and welcome to the Rob Burgess Show. I'm, of course, your host, Rob Burgess. On this, our 283rd episode, our guest is Steve Schlam. Steve Schlam first gained entrance to the City of Words through the doors of the Public Library in Brooklyn, New York, where he was born and spent a good portion of his childhood, and has maintained his residency ever since, while living in cities and towns across the U.S.A. and in Mexico. An actor as well as an author, he has performed on stages in all the places he has called home, and earned an M.A. degree in creative writing under the tutelage of Joseph Heller, renowned author of Catch-22. His debut novel, The Harvesting of Haystacks Kane, published in 2024, was longlisted for the Bath Novel Award and the Disquiet International Prize for Fiction. He lives now in sunny Southern California in a pretty little Craftsman house with lemons and tangelos growing in the backyard, in the company of his wife, Liora. And now on to the show. Yeah, thank you for doing this tonight. I appreciate it.
As do I, of course. I have a novel, and I'd like my novel to be seen by the world at large, and you're a vehicle for doing that and are willing to do it, and so I appreciate it.
Well, well, you're welcome.
You have a famous name. You have a very famous name.
I do.
There are. I was thinking about it this afternoon. Actually, I don't know why, but I was. Well, I guess I was going to talk to you. So there, of course, is the House of Burgess in Virginia.
Yep.
And then there's Guy Burgess, who was a famous British spy who worked for the Soviets during the Cold War.
Oh.
And with his partner McLean. I don't remember McLean's first name, but my favorite of all is Smokey Burgess, who was a catcher for the Philadelphia Phillies, and I think he played for the Reds also. And I'm from Brooklyn, and in those days when I was young, Brooklyn had a team called the Brooklyn Dodgers, which you may know of. Mm-hmm. And Smokey Burgess used to beat hell out of us, is what I remember. Nice. So anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. So look, I haven't prepared anything specific because you didn't send in any questions or anything. So I figured we'll wing it, and or it'll be a free flowing conversation, yep. Which is fine with me.
Yep. That's exactly how I like to do it. Well, I thought you were going to say Burgess Meredith, but I guess that's a first name, right?
Oh, that's a first name, right? Right. No, I'm only thinking of last. Yeah, that's right.
Definitely.
That's right.
Well, yeah. Great. Well, yeah. So for people who are listening that don't know who you are, if you just tell a little bit about yourself to get started with, that'd be great.
So my name is Steve Schlam. I'm an author. I have a debut novel called The Harvesting of Haystacks Kane, which is the story of a 607-pound professional wrestler born Herschel Kane in Brooklyn, New York, who has been gravely injured in a match with his longtime nemesis and arch rival Valentino, a wrestler who holds the title, the Heart of America title that he wants for himself, and the guy who has seduced his wife, made him a cuckold, and put him in the hospital where Haystacks is lying immobilized, unable to speak, with tubes and blinking lights all around him, trying to figure out, he's drifting in and out of consciousness, I should say, attempting when he is conscious to figure out what the heck has happened, both in the short run and over the longer course of his life, and what the heck to do about it, or what can be done about it.
Right.
The book has been longlisted for 2 international literary awards, the Bath Novel Award and the Disquiet Literary Prize. And I just got I was just longlisted again for the New York City Big Book Award. And so it's a good book. It's literary fiction. It's very, very heavy to language. Anybody who like me thinks of written language as a kind of a musical, as a kind of a melody, that'll take you places if you close your eyes and let it, just as good jazz or good classical music or even some rock and roll will do the same, and poetry will do the same. It's a book for you, and it's a book filled with incident. It's powerful and pretty poignant, as I think, anyway. And so that's who I am. I'm a native New Yorker, as I said to you when we first started talking, Rob. Um, and I have a degree in creative writing. I studied with Joseph Heller, who wrote Catch 22, who once told me I wrote better than he did. And I didn't know what the hell to do. I think my jaw probably dropped down to my ankles. And I'm not even sure I could figure out enough to say thank you. Um, and I published this novel. I'm 80 years old, and I published this novel. I didn't write it at the age of 78, but I published it at the age of 78. It's been a long, strange trip, as the Grateful Dead might say. Um, and it's the fact that it is now in print, that I've seen it take its place in the world, um, is a lovely, lovely, sweet moment for me, indeed. It's tinged with a little bit of sadness because at this point, the runway, I'll call it, for additional work is shorter than it might have been had the book been published earlier on, or had I pursued additional work sooner. But nonetheless, I'm extremely proud. I feel like it's been a marathon, and I crossed the finish line, and I won. You know, I won.
Right. Why do you think you didn't publish a book until now? What stopped you?
Well, I mean, I don't want to get into the weeds of it all, but it's writing, that there are two separate parts to being a writer, I've discovered. One is the actual creative work, which is the best part of it. It also can be hell on wheels. You can look at a blank page and have nothing to put on it, for example. I had some of that when I first wrote it. Um, but the other part of it is commerce. It's selling something. You have a product, you want to bring it to market. And some people, some writers are lucky or good or both, and they hook up with an agent or an editor right away. They're seen as promising, and the work is taken on and published. And then the next step is to write something else. Um, Others have a more difficult time of it, and I guess I was one of those. I had an agent for a while. We came close. I was introduced to Bob Gottlieb, who was the head of the editor-in-chief at Alfred A. Knopf, which is the premier publishing house in the United States. Joseph Heller introduced me to him, but he passed. He didn't like it. He didn't want it. And so, I mean, it's it was a long trip with a lot of bumps and potholes. But eventually I had an agent for a while. She didn't sell it. I put it away, but I never gave it up because I knew that I had something. I had something good. I had something worth sharing with the world. And I knew also that it was a ticket for me personally for a kind of freedom from the world of getting and spending, which is the alternative to creative work of any sort. And a ticket as well away from the kind of the false identities that we are all trained to wrap around us like clothing, or maybe masks in a kind of a dumb show that life often is. And so again, it took me a long time. I have a couple of other items, not items, but projects that I'm working on. I hope I'm able to finish at least one of them. Um, I think in a way I cut off my nose to spite my face by not, when the first one was not, when I had to put it away, and just keep the light burning, so to speak, off in the distance, or maybe inside me is a better way to put it. Um, I should have just gone ahead and done number two and perhaps number three as well, but I didn't for lots of reasons. And so here I am now, and you play the hand that you've been dealt or that you dealt yourself, and that's where I'm at.
Was there something about this story in particular, what that you just held on to or captivated you, or was the thing that kind of like was
Ah,
like, yes,
I
I
see.
need to like get this out
Well,
of the way?
actually, Rob, it came to me in a dream,
Oh, great.
which is a writer's cliche, I guess. But it really is the truth. I was living in New York, where I'm from, on the sixth floor of a rent-controlled building in Brooklyn Heights, the first historic district in New York City. Uh, and it was a rent-controlled apartment, so I was paying $136 a month, which you can't beat for love or money. But anyway, and it was summer, and I was all of a sudden, I was literally thrown back into consciousness by the stream. And the last line, well, what ultimately became the last line of the book was the first thing I heard. Uh, Not literally, well, in a sense, literally. I mean, I don't think if you measured the sound in the room, there would have been any decibels, but I heard it nonetheless. I heard it inside. And then I heard a whole lot of other voices. Um, and I thought, well, this is it. I've fallen over the edge into Crazyville, and soon they're going to come with the butterfly nets and take me away. And then I realized that no, I wasn't crazy in that sense anyway. But I had stumbled on or stumbled upon me or a series of characters, each of whom was clamoring for my attention, each of whom demanded to be heard. And so I raced out of bed. I went to my desk, which was sitting in a dark foyer in my rent-controlled apartment, right under the roof. It was July. It was hot. It was hazy, hot, and humid as only New York can be. And I sat there for the next several hours. This was the middle of the night, frantically trying to capture every single voice that I heard. And of course, I couldn't, but I captured enough of each one to tell myself or to know that I had something here that was not, it was not some sort of emotional disturbance, or if it was an emotional disturbance of the best kind, because I had obviously tapped into my subconscious where creativity lives. And so I knew that I had something that was I knew it was a novel right away. And then I was, after a few hours of this, sitting there, writing on yellow pads. I had a big decision to make. I was a lawyer at the time, a very reluctant, very unhappy lawyer, as so many lawyers are. And I was working, part time, and I actually I was a peace worker, a legal peace worker. But in any event, and so but I was faced with this very critical choice right early on. Do I keep writing and keep writing and keep writing and forget about putting on my monkey suit and tie and going to work the next morning and the morning after that and the morning after that, or did I somehow capture as much as I could, leave it there, and trust that when I came back to it, after going to work and continuing to work, the impulse and the material and the life that the impulse and the material contained, the energy, the feeling, would remain, and I would be able to tap into it. There's a saying, you can't step in the same water twice, and I have had enough experience writing to know that in some sense that's true. It's you have to use you have to sacrifice things, because you cannot. My literary hero, I'm digressing and I apologize, but my literary hero is William Faulkner, and he once said that he and Thomas Wolfe wanted to put the whole world in a single sentence. and so do I. Uh,
Mm.
my writing style reflects that desire.
Hmm.
And so when I was back there in Brooklyn trying to figure out what to do, I tried to capture as much as I could. And I finally, because what I thought were my survival needs uh, took precedence over my creative desires, I guess you'd say, because I had a wife who wanted to eat and wear nice clothing
Mm.
and, and all of that, just as I did. I didn't care much about the clothing, but I did like to eat. I
Big
still
fan.
do.
Big fan.
Um, I did not have in the end the courage to just kick over the traces, as we used to say back in the 60s, and forge ahead into the forest of the unknown. I couldn't do it. So I did get up the next morning and go to work. And then that's when the long, strange trip began.
And yeah, I'm glad you brought up dreams because I've had really some intense dreams lately, and I noticed that some of my most memorable and intense dreams are where it's like you're kind of half asleep, half awake. Like it's usually if I've gotten woken up too early and I try to go back to sleep, that time when I'm dreaming, I feel like I have some of the most vivid and actually like you said, you can take it a little bit and like into the world with you a little bit more than like I feel like when I'm like fully in my like REM cycle or whatever, I had an incident the other day where I was dreaming and I was dreaming so deeply that I had literally opened my eyes and I was staring at the window and I was like, Rob, you are asleep. You need to wake up because it was like a nightmare and I was like I can't wake up. I'm still in this dream. I can't get out. But if it's like one of those liminal spaces between the dreaming and the awake, it's like
Yes.
you can kind you know what I mean? It's a little bit different.
Yeah. No, mine wasn't exactly like that, but it's on that order. I mean,
Yeah.
in other words, when I woke up, I literally was thrown back into consciousness, and the voices were, I mean, how shall I say? They weren't in a distant place in my consciousness. They were right up front, right by the temporal lobes, and that's why I could hear them, I think. And I mean, it was very disconcerting because I'm not kidding. I mean, I tell the story like it's a joke, but I thought to myself, geez, I'm crazy. I'm gone over the edge because it's so vivid, you know, that, I mean, people don't talk to you when you're asleep.
Mm,
They just don't,
mm,
and so, and it took me a while, not too long, thank goodness, but it took me a while to realize that these were actually characters who were talking to me and wanted to be put someplace in which they could live their character lives. So sure, I understand completely what you're talking about.
right.
It's very disconcerting. You don't know whether you're asleep or awake.
Hmm. Well, and I think, I'm reading your book and your writing style, at least from what I've read so far, it's very stream of consciousness, very dreamlike. There's a lot of run-on sentences. There's
Yeah,
not a whole bunch of punctuation. So
that's right.
it's one of those things where you kind of have to like, okay, this is just the way that the story's going to go, and you just kind of vibe with it. It's like when you're if you've ever read like A Clockwork Orange or something,
No,
and
so I didn't hear you. I'm
or
sorry.
like if you read like A Clockwork Orange and like they're talking this like strange way, you just like okay, we're just in this world and this is how we're going with it. You know what I mean? So
It's a kind of a deal you have to make with the author,
yeah,
even though he or she isn't there. You have to say, okay, I'm going to accept
I
this.
trust
I'm
you.
going to
Take me
deal with
where
it
you're
on
going to
you.
take me, but you're obviously going to take me on a journey here.
Yeah, you're going to, right. I mean, I'm going to deal with this on the terms you're presenting it
Yeah,
to me with or under.
right.
Um, and it's I'm not saying, well, there let me just back up and talk about my book for a moment. There's plenty of stream of consciousness, fragmented thinking, and so on. But I mean, there is also an awful lot of straight narrative
Hmm.
uh, in sentences that don't run on for, I don't know, 500 words. I'm just picking a number. You know what I'm saying?
uh,
Um, because most of the time, stream of consciousness reflects someone's consciousness. It is an attempt to replicate the process in which some authors and psychologists and so on would argue we actually experience it's the way we actually experience our experience, so to speak.
Mm.
Um, it's much more. I mean, we don't always think in organized sentences with periods and semicolons and capital letters and all that stuff. It's more it's a flash of this, and a thought of that. It's fast, it's slow, and it's very impressionistic.
Right.
Um, and so that's what I am replicating. And when that occurs in my novel, it's because something has occurred in the external world, or in a memory that Herschel Haystacks is having while he lies there immobilized, that triggers a rush of feeling, a rush of memories that do not come into his consciousness again in an organized way. They come
Hmm.
maybe in his exact same way they came when he originally had the experience.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
yeah.
Reading your book, have you seen the movie The Wrestler?
The who?
The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke as the lead
Oh, the
actor.
wrestler. Yeah,
The Wrestler.
I actually know Mickey Rourke's mother. I used to.
No
She's
kidding. That's funny.
Yeah. She she lived in a building. I had a girlfriend a long time ago I used to live in Miami Beach, and she lived in
Funny.
my girlfriend's building. So yeah, I never met him though.
Okay.
Uh,
But yeah, anyway, he's have you seen that movie, The Wrestler?
I have a long
Okay.
time ago.
Yeah, it's just reading your book, I thought of that a lot.
Yeah,
After,
I mean, they both involve wrestlers, so in that sense, I understand.
yeah, yeah.
But I mean, I think Marissa Tomei is his girlfriend in that.
Yep.
Um, yeah, um, you know, I wouldn't say. I mean, I obviously stream of consciousness, interior monologues are an essential part of my character's development and psyche. Um, but I mean, the whole book is not that. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, if you read The Sound and the Fury by Faulkner, for
I love
example,
that book. I was actually going to mention that when you said Faulkner. That's my
it's
favorite Faulkner
to,
book.
to me it's the greatest novel ever written.
So good.
But I mean, you have actually four narrators, two of whom are presented almost exclusively in stream of consciousness for
Yeah.
their entire section of the
Right.
novel. And my book is not like that, but it does have a good bit of stream of consciousness. Yes.
What else do you want to write? I mean, now that you've popped you've popped the seal, you're a published author now.
Right.
What's next? Because that's the thing where whenever I like think about, what else I'd like to do with writing, I'm always like, yeah, but if they like this, they're immediately going to be like, what's next?
Yeah. No, and that's for a writer, that's gold. I
Of
mean, if
course, that's
somebody,
great. That's the question you want to be asked. Of course, this is what you
yes, of
fought so
course,
hard for.
of course. Um, I have there are two novels that have been kicking around in my head for a while now. The first one is I don't have and neither one is well, one of them actually I have a title for, but this one, the one I'm going to tell you about right the second, I don't have a title for, but it is a novel that would be centered around um, Michael Jackson and Mao Zedong. And its subject, yes, its subject would be the intersection of fame and power and how it or they um, influence and affect the interior life of the individual. I mean, if you think about it, Mao Zedong was a person who wielded absolute power. And Michael Jackson is a person who had what I would call virtually absolute fame. Um, and so I have it roughed out. It's really a rough idea, and I don't want to go too deeply into it because I'm not sure I can here. But I'm pretty certain that the two of them would meet at some point. Um, and I think that would be a really wonderful scene or series of scenes.
Hmm.
Uh, so that's one of the two novels. In fact, I applied this year for a few months ago for a National Endowment on the Arts Literature Fellowship for 2026. And one of the things you have to tell them is what your next project is going to be. And this is the project I proposed.
Right.
They want to know what you're going to do with the money, and assuming you win. And I told them I would go to China to write at least a good portion of it, which I would. Um, but of course, Trump pulled the funding and
Oh
shifted it to
man.
things that it's not intended for.
Jeez.
And I'm sure that I'm told, I think that there's a lawsuit pending, one of the many, many lawsuits pending against the Trump administration. Anyway, the other novel is a novel that had this idea for a long time. It's a story of a guy. It's based on a true story. It's a story of a guy who was a pillar of his community, of his church. He's as straight as an arrow. Um, he's an insurance broker, I believe, or maybe an insurance executive. I haven't decided that yet, but he's in the insurance business for sure. And uh, uh, he has a wife and two kids. And one day he has the wife call his kids' schools and tell the people there that the kids are not going to be coming in that particular day because there's either a family emergency or they've decided to go on a trip. And after he's done that, he kills the wife and two children and takes off and is not heard from again for a very, very long time. And, it's how shall I put it? It's my Violence is as American as Cherry Pie novel. And my perspective on it is that I would try to create, despite the horror of the act that this guy commits, I would try to write it from a perspective in which you have to feel sympathy for the character. It's like sympathy for the devil, as the Rolling Stones once said.
Right.
Um, and because it is a it's a kind of a request or a demand even that we recognize each other's humanity even when we don't behave in a particularly human way, is the way I would put it. So that's the other novel. And that novel will be called The Dying Swan.
Mm. Thank you so much for taking all this time. Is there anything else we didn't talk about that you want to make sure people know?
Um, well, my book can be, I mean, you can buy my book on Amazon, of course. You can buy everything on Amazon these days. You can buy my book at Barnes& and Noble or any other major bookstore chain that is nearby, or for that matter, that has an online presence. And you can buy it, as I'm fond of saying, wherever good books are sold.
Mm.
Um, it's published by Eighth House Publishing, a small publishing house. Um, and it's got a great cover. And it's a good read, worth reading. And I hope that it will take you someplace, take you to that place I was talking about, where the best music and poetry take you, which is in essence a place of transcendence, a place that allows you to, as all peak experiences do, to experience all that is, to be here now, as Richard Albert once said. That's my ultimate goal.
Absolutely. The incredible now. Um, but yes, thank you again for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
I think everyone should check it out. Congratulations on getting it done over the finish line. That's an incredible achievement. Uh,
Thank you.
I love it.
And it's called The Harvesting of Haystacks Kane.
Yep,
And my name is Steve Schlam,
yep.
Schlam.
Last question before we go. I always ask, what music have you been listening to lately?
Oh, gee. I have been around since the beginning of rock and roll.
Great.
I used to listen to Alan Freed, who invented the term rock and roll, who coined that term on WINS 1010 Winds, New York. And I've gone through doo-wop and the Beatles and Dylan and you name it up to the present. I mostly listen to, and I think this is a sign of advancing age, I mostly listen to music from classic rock and folk rock, music from the 60s and 70s into the 80s. Once we get into the 90s, it begins to trickle off. I'm not a fan of rap music. I like jazz as well. I listen to some jazz, but mostly it's rock and roll and rhythm and blues. And I love doo-wop, which is what I used to listen to when I first heard rock and roll and knew instantly that this was not music for my parents. It was music for me.
Yeah, did you see the Beatles on Ed Sullivan?
Of course.
That's incredible.
I saw the Beatles in Shea Stadium.
Nice.
I saw Dylan and the second time he ever went electric.
Nice. I love Bob Dylan.
Yeah. It was in Forest Hills Tennis Stadium, and people were arguing in the stands. Oh, he's a traitor. No, he's an artist. He's exploring his music. I mean, it was hilarious, And he just played. He didn't give it down,
I love it. That's great. No, I play guitar, bass, and ukulele, and I love to play Bob Dylan songs.
Yeah. He's 80. I saw him last year here. I live in San Diego, and I saw him here last year with Willie Nelson.
Oh, that's great.
John
Bellington. I was just in Balboa Island.
Oh, were you really? Oh.
Yeah, my last episode was me playing ukulele on the Balboa Pier.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Great.
You must like bluegrass then.
I love bluegrass. Some of my best friends are in a bluegrass band. So, yeah.
Well, sometime if you're ever out this way, bring along your axe and we can. I used to sing rock and roll, so I'm sure we could come up with something.
Absolutely. Great. Well, nice to finally talk to you. And yes, please, everyone, check out your book. I really think it'd be worthwhile.
So, thanks so much, Rob.
Great. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.